What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. I hope you're having a good day today. There's a lot of stuff that's happened in the news, some very interesting stuff, including Apple and Nintendo fighting over parts. The Intel i9 has now been announced, and the Twitch is trying to play the stock market. So this should be interesting, guys. So let's get started here. And the first bit of news, guys, comes from Sonic Mania. That's the other Sonic game that a lot of people aren't talking about right now just because Sonic Forces sounds so ridiculous. But Sonic Mania is the callback to the old school Sonic days when it was just you, a controller, and super fast 2D action. And that's what we're getting here. Now, two things have always been concerning to me, and that's the price and the release date, because I was concerned if this waited around too long and got into the holiday season, it would kind of be forgotten about, or at least just crowded, and people would have just never even looked at it. But it looks like it's going to at least beat that holiday rush. It is set to release August 15th, and my other concern was the price, because if you try to charge too much for this game, people just aren't going to buy it. The price, though, is good at $20, $19.99. In fact, if you go on Steam right now, it looks like it's like 10% off, so it's $17.99. And like I said, this is very exciting for old school Sonic fans, because if you don't want Sonic Forces, if you don't want a 3D Sonic game, this is perfect. It's a really cool mixture of like Sonic CD and Sonic and Knuckles, because they will have Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails all playable. They'll have co-op action where you and another person can play through it together. And it's going to be 60 frames per second. Like it sounds and looks like high-speed, old-school Sonic action where you're trying to run the perfect run all the way through the level without stopping. And it just looks great. They have all the really cool zones in there, and I'm excited to play it. Great here. I won't have to wait very long. I was worried it would be pushed into like October, but August is good. August 15th at $20 is manageable. I think that's good. It's going to be on all the major platforms: PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. This looks like a game I will just get on the Switch. It's going to play the same either way. I've already played Sonic Mania at the Washington, D.C. event, and it played great in handheld mode as I was playing. It looked very vibrant on the screen, so I figure I'll get on the Switch. It'll give me the portable aspect and, of course, the at-home feel on the TV. And guys, if you're a big computer enthusiast, you'll be happy to know that we now have a look at the i9 processors from Intel. Of course, we were stuck pretty much leveled at the i7 as the top end, along with some higher-end Xeons that would work for things like server load. Looks like now, though, the i9 is going to be pretty much the beast of the Intel's lineup, and it looks pretty serious. So here's a quick chart showing kind of all the things you can expect from the i9 lineup. There's also a new i5, new i7s, and everything kind of mixed in there. Now, the big thing here to look at, guys, is that, yes, the top end is expensive. It's not cheap. I mean, the top end processors here start at $2,000, mid-range at $1,000. And really, if you don't need an i9, which a lot of us don't, because you're looking at 10 cores and 20 threads with hyper-threading, you don't need that for gaming. Maybe if you're doing video work, heavy video work though, now I'm talking like ridiculous video work, you might need it. But if you're more of a general user, you would look at something, especially if you're mostly doing, say, gaming, you would be looking at something more along the lines of like an i7 7740X, which is not bad. You can also go up to the 7800X if you want 6 cores at 12 threads, because those are priced a little better. Somewhere around the neighborhood, they said, of around $339, $389. I say somewhere around the neighborhood because, of course, retailers online for some reason never follow these suggested retail prices for video cards or processors. They're all over the place, but the lineup looks good. I think they had some major pressure put on them by the AMD Ryzen chips being much cheaper than Intel originally planned. Again, the top end, guys, it's not meant for consumers. It's not. None of us. It's not aimed at us. We're looking at the lower end i7s. I say lower end, but I mean, 6 cores at 12 threads with an i7 is pretty strong for most of us. The thing that I think a lot of people were concerned about, and it looks to be true, is that they were introducing a new socket, which means, of course, you got to buy a new motherboard for it. You can't use the old socket. The new socket is the Intel 2066, and it is set up for all of the new i5, i7. It's like an X series. They add an X to the end, so you know. So it's like Kaby Lake X, Skylake X, and they just added that in there. Mostly, again, I don't want to say to make you buy another motherboard, it's just the technology needed to kind of upgrade along with the socket. Now we're still waiting on solid release dates for these, but I would expect them this year, especially since they've announced them now at Computex. That's how we have all of this information. So look for them to be released eventually, and of course you can go on Newegg, or you can go over to Micro Center and pick one up. And guys, real quick, we've talked about Sony's press conference a little bit already, And what's really cool is they're going to do the same theater experience that they did last year, where you can go to one of 85 venues across the United States and Canada, and you can attend the entire E3 showing for Sony that night, and it looks kind of cool. Now, I didn't go to the one last year, mostly because it was easier to watch it here at home, but if you're a big fan of Sony or you do enjoy their E3 conferences every year, might be cool to look into. Now, they did say you will need to present a photo ID showing you're at least 17, since they will be showing mature-rated games, which in, say, a movie theater setting would be an R-rated movie. That's the way it is, though, but what you'd have to do is you'd have to really get tickets soon, like very soon. Now, it's cool because tickets to the PlayStation E3 Experience 2017 are free, so you have to kind of put your name in and hope you get it. More than likely, they'll be sold out in the next day or two, so you might want to go on there now and see if you can get your name in. And the next bit of news, guys, is about Rime. Remember the game that I played a little bit of, and we've been talking about it for a while because eventually it will be ported to the Switch. It's already out if you want to get it on the PC or PS4, Xbox One. And what's interesting is it does have a DRM feature to it. So it is guarded right now by Denuvo. And we've talked about that before. It's a DRM that is very hard apparently to crack, but it is crackable, and it has happened in the past already. Now, they have said something that kind of challenges, I guess, hackers or people that do get around these things, saying that once it's hacked, guys, we're just gonna wipe all DRM from it and that'll be done for the rest of the updates. This was posted by one of Rime's community managers over on the Steam message boards. He went ahead and said, "We are very committed to this, but also to the simple fact that nothing is infallible. That being said, if Rime is cracked, we will release a de novo free version of Rime and update existing platforms." Which is interesting to challenge hackers to do this, to make the game, in their mind, better. Now, Rime is, of course, a single-player game that if you do download and play through, you won't get much from connecting to the internet. So the reason that Denuvo is there is to protect it from people just downloading it and playing it. Since there's no multiplayer feature that is really, that really draws you in, you can play this completely offline by yourself and you'll have a good time. So you need some kind of protection. I understand why they would do this, but it's weird to challenge people saying, "Hey guys, I bet you can't crack this, and guess what, if you do, we'll reward you by just taking it off of there completely." And if you've been curious about this Mario and Raving Rabbids crossover RPG that apparently is happening because they won't stop leaking stuff out, well, there's more information specifically about the backstory around this game that apparently came from comicbook.com. I don't really know why they would get their hands on this stuff, but they put out this entire report based around how this game came to be and just a little more information about it. Some of the information that's kind of interesting includes things like the development process started 3 years ago, which is quite a while, although if the game's just about ready now, I guess that's not extremely surprising. Apparently it was originally planned for the Wii U. Ubisoft, we're going to say, it came up with the idea, presented it to Nintendo through their standard practices of submitting game ideas, and I guess they went for it. Now, the idea here is that Ubisoft is doing pretty much everything about this game, but Nintendo is overseeing it heavily and kind of making the final say on how their characters are used. And the list really goes into some really serious details about the game. They do say that every character in the game does have their own specific skill tree that you build out as you play through it. I assume as you collect experience points, or whatever they call experience points, who knows now. They could be stars or something, and you apparently get more skills as you play through. So that would at least give me what I want, which is at least somewhat of a traditional RPG element where you gain skills as you do battles and get points. But who really knows at this point what Ubisoft is planning here? And yes, they do kind of drive home the fact that we will see it August or September. Originally it was supposed to be revealed or at least announced in the January presser that we all heard we were going to see it at, but it got pushed back to apparently give the game more polish. If that's the case, fine, that's great. We're going to get an announcement, though, in June, and then it comes out in August or September. That's pretty soon. I would have expected it later, but man, I'm okay with more games, and I'm okay with creative games, and this looks to be something I will at least give it a chance for. So Twitch is a great place for a few things. It's great for streaming games. It's great for becoming known as a streamer, obviously. And really, it's great for fan interaction. What's really fun about Twitch, it's great for really collective social experiments. What I mean by social experiments is really to see if large groups of strangers and people can work together to accomplish a common task. We all know about Pokemon, where Twitch plays Pokemon, and they managed to beat Pokemon by having people kind of put in commands, and then a system, an algorithm would vote, and then you would move up. The character would move up. You'd pick a battle command. You'd move over. You'd press A, and it worked. They beat the game. You know, it's still one of the craziest things in the world to me. Apparently, they also did Dark Souls, which is really funny. And now we are taking a shot, guys, at running the stocks. And yeah, the whole thing goes through a series of votes. People will basically vote on which trade to make, and then after the countdown timer expires, it makes that trade. It really is serious, guys. This person, Mike, who has developed this, put in $50,000 and just letting these strangers on Twitch attempt to grow that money. Now it has actually grown already, which is surprising, I guess, to say the least. People are working together in a non-trollish way, I guess, to where they are actually growing $50,000. Now it's been jumping around a lot. Last I saw, it was at $50,000 and then $60. It's been around there. It hasn't dropped below 50,000, which to me is a victory on its own. But apparently, if the stream drops below 25,000, they'll just end the stream and kind of move on. It's really just to see what people can do in a collaborative effort to try to grow money and work as a team. And of course, they need to do things like weed out the trolls that will inevitably just be trying to damage this person's investment. But you know what? It's really fun. It'll be cool to watch going forward and just to see what happens. Maybe a bunch of people on Twitch can make $1 million. And guys, the last bit of news has to do with the Nintendo Switch stock, and apparently an explanation as to why Nintendo has been having some serious trouble getting these units out to the public. And this was reported on the Wall Street Journal's website, and they had some interesting things to say, specifically that Nintendo and Apple are essentially buying the same EEPROM parts, like the parts for the storage, the 32 gig in particular, that goes into the Switch, is kind of being fought back and forth by Apple and Nintendo. And I hate to say it, if Nintendo is fighting Apple for these parts, they are in trouble, because Apple will put the bigger order in for their iPhone order, and they will get those parts. And a spokeswoman at Toshiba has even gone on record saying, yeah, demand is way higher than supply right now, and it'll probably last that way throughout the year. Now, that's not to say that Apple is going to get every single chip, because of course they will have some allotted for Nintendo. It's just this, guys, might be shedding some light on why the president of Nintendo was concerned about getting the 10 million Switches this fiscal year, because there might just not be any parts. And apparently this isn't just Nintendo or Apple. This is like industry-wide, according to Wall Street Journal. They've just named Nintendo and Apple in particular because they are the ones with, right now, the hotter mobile items that most of the public knows, the iPhone and the Switch. And right now, guys, it's over the EEPROM flash memory and the liquid crystal displays that's used in the Switch that are really causing a bottleneck right now in production for Nintendo. According to them, if this didn't exist, Nintendo would be pumping out Switches like crazy. They are still estimating that Nintendo could get to 20 million if this would just resolve itself. So here's the problem really that Nintendo runs into, and I think you know what I'm about to say. Having to put more money in to really get these items, these parts they need to build them, could drive the cost of their production up, guys, which means the Switch could possibly end up costing more than the retail price at current time for Nintendo to produce. And that could be a problem because they can't start charging more money for the Switch. Realistically, what they could do is they could increase the storage space in the system and try to sell it at a higher price, but that means that they would then be introducing a new system like right away. After most of us bought the 32 gig model, all of a sudden 128 gig model is out there, $50 more. I don't think I'd be happy. I would have wanted that one. You know, that's the problem we're running into right now, and Nintendo might just have to kind of get as many systems as they can out and just hope they can get to that 10 million mark that they were talking about. And realistically, it's a shame, but they will get through it eventually. It's kind of tough right now because there's nothing really they can do about it. Anyone like Apple or even bigger companies like maybe a Microsoft or something that's using data centers, they're always going to be able to outbid Nintendo on these things because they can give them a much larger contract, especially data centers. Man, so much money gets poured into those, and people like Toshiba, it's not like they're friends with Nintendo, so they're going to hook them up. You know, they're not going to give them a good deal. No, it's It's business, and unfortunately right now Nintendo may be on the outside looking in on some of these parts. And that's it for Newswave today, guys. Make sure you comment, like, and subscribe. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at SpawnWave Media so you can hear about my random thoughts and maybe talk to me back and forth now and then, depending on what's going on in the news. I'm very curious sometimes, guys, to hear your opinions on these topics. Let me know what you think about the Nintendo shortage of parts, specifically the fact that flash memory and liquid crystal displays, or LCDs being used in them, are getting few and far between to get, and they have to compete with the likes of Apple for these things. That seems almost unfair, right? Let me think about the Raving Rabbids and Mario leak still. It sounds like this game is shaping up, and we'll definitely hear about it in, 2 weeks now. So I'm getting excited for it just to see. And definitely, guys, let me know what you think about this Twitch plays the stocks, because I feel like it could be interesting. I also feel like this guy may be losing some of his money at the end. That's it for now, guys. I will see you next time.